Let's start with the first question, which asks you to look at the split method, which is found at the end of the list of possible secret words for the Hangman game. All right, so the first experiment asks you to revise the words list, which I found here. So I am going to add some animals in there. And then it tells you to scroll to the end and delete the split method. So I have deleted that, and now I'm going to run this. And I'm noticing that I'm only getting one letter, one blank space here. So I'm going to go back and put the split back in. Oops. Run it again. And now I see that I've gotten the number of spaces for whatever my word is. So it might not be totally clear here what the split method does, but based on what you know about lists, you know that items are separated by commas. In this case, they're not, because we're using the split method to say wherever there is a space, split those into two items. So the split method here is used in place of commas, wherever there's a space, to separate items in the list. In question number 2, we're looking at how the number of board pictures in the Hangman picks list affects the number of turns the player gets to guess a letter. As you can see on the left here, I've played the game, and after 6 missed guesses and 1 correct guess, they've given me the answer. So I know that I have 7 tries to get the word. If I go with to the Hangman picks in my code and delete the last Hangman board, which also means deleting the quotation marks and the comma, and then I run my program again, let's see how many guesses I get this time. This time I got 5 missed guesses and 1 correct guess, so I got 6 guesses. So I had 1 less guess. Here's question number 3. It says this block of code displayed below defines the getRandomWord function. So I am defining a function called getRandomWord. You've seen something similar to this in silly sentences, and I'm not having you do an experiment here. I just want you to try to explain what the function does and how we're using this line of code right here. So basically, similar to in silly sentences, I'm taking a random number, which is actually going to be related to the index in the list of words, and I'm going to I'm going to find the length of the, I'm going to find the length of the word list and subtract 1 from it, because as we know, the length of the words list, if there are 5 words in it, they're starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in their indices. So the 5th object is actually 4. So I'm going to subtract 1 so that I'm always picking an index that's actually in the list. And that is going to give me the word that I'm going to pull. And that's how I'm going to pick my secret word. Question number 4 has us looking at the lower method and how that affects the user's input for their guess. Is just run the program as it is. So if I run it and I guess a capital B, it tells me it's a missed letter, but I'm not getting an error. Now, if I go and find the getGuess function that I've defined and I delete the line that it's telling me to in problem number 4, save my program, run it again, and I put a capital B in this time, it's not letting me actually. I don't know if you can hear that noise. Yours, since you're using PyCharm, will probably just tell you that there is an error. So I think it's pretty clear here that that .lower method takes whatever the user inputs and turns it into a lowercase letter, so that you don't ever have to write if answer equals A or if answer equals the uppercase A. So this is just a way to take whatever the user's guess is and turn it into lowercase so that you can account for however the user might type it in. Finally, in number 5, this is one of my favorite functions in this game, the get guess function. And you'll be able to see through this little experiment all of the things that the program automatically checks for in the user's guess before accepting it as a possible guess. So first, by leaving all of these if statements in my get guess function, if I try to guess BA, Hangman will tell me, please enter a single letter. It hasn't added anything to the Hangman board. It hasn't counted this as a guess. It's just telling me, hey, you're not playing right. Try again. Now, if I go through and I delete all of these and I backspace my return guess, and this time I try to run it again, and I say BA, it tells me I have 2 missed letters. It did add the head and the body, so it is counting it as 2 turns. But that's just not how I want the game to be played. I want the player to guess 1 letter at a time. So if I put that code back in, I can see that I'm saying if the length of your guess is not 1, so if you are not putting in 1 letter for your guess, then I'm telling you to enter a single letter. If your guess is in the already guessed list, so if it's something that you've already tried, I'm going to tell you you've already guessed that letter, try again, and I'm not going to count that against you. And then if your guess is not a letter, so if it's not A through Z, I'm going to say please enter a letter to make sure you can't enter an exclamation mark or something like that. And then otherwise, I'm going to use the guess that you gave me.